The case that I'm about to talk to you today, you probably already saw the title, but this case truly has everyone in the Dominican Republic on edge, anxious, concerned. Everyone just wants answers. This is an ongoing case, meaning it has not been resolved. We have not come to a resolution yet. And from my understanding, the little girl has not been found either. There was a similar case to this back in April of 2025, which is a whole separate video all on its own, but it doesn't exactly give anyone the confidence and the hope that this case will be resolved, just because we don't seem to have a good track record in our country for finding victims, for finding children, and it seems like they're just poof disappearing into thin air and no one has any answers. Personally, this case has disturbed me on so many levels because I think everyone on a certain level knows that there's something fishy going on. People are not telling the truth. There's a lot of versions of what's happening, and I'm here to talk to you about it today because I do believe that the more attention a case can get, especially internationally, can put even more pressure on the authorities and the police over there to actually do their job, investigate, and get things rolling. Of course, they have been investigating because media in the Dominican Republic have been pushing for this. But I don't know. I'm hoping that this video reaches who it needs to reach, and other cases like this are thoroughly examined, just like with the other child that went missing in April. Brianna Genao Rosario is a 3-year-old little girl, essentially a toddler, who went missing on December 31st from a familial residence. Brianna is being raised by her grandmother because her mother resides in the United States and her grandfather also resides here. Her biological dad, from my understanding, does reside in the Dominican Republic, but he's not the one that's in charge of her care or custody. From what I've gathered, his mom was initially going to take custody, but she couldn't because they both had work, so they couldn't attend to the little girl. And they made an agreement that Brianna's maternal grandmother would be the one to raise her. So they were originally from Navarrete in the Dominican Republic, which is in the province of Santiago. However, they were in Puerto Plata, specifically in Imbert, for I believe the Christmas and also for New Year's Eve celebrations. So the house that they were at is Brianna's grandmother's own mother's, so her great grandmother's home, and it's in El Campo, which is essentially the countryside. Some Americans might call it the boondocks. It's a very rural area, not a lot of people. There's farming, it's a cacao plantation as well, which is cocoa, like cocoa beans and stuff like that. So it's a very tight knit community. Everyone knows each other, and for the most part it seems that people within this community are all family some way or another, give or take maybe a few people that aren't related, but for the most part everyone knows each other. They know everyone by name. It's literally a village. El Campo, and I do have family that is from El Campo, so I've even been, in El Campo as a little girl. Kids there, they play freely. Like mentioned, everyone knows each other. People tend to keep an eye on other people's kids. Kids are free to play, roam around, go to the hills, go to the like where the farming is and everything. It's typically very safe. These are small communities where everyone talks. Gossip spreads like wildfire. By the end of the day, everyone will know everything that is going on. It's faster than the internet, but everyone is very tight knit. And one thing that is never missing from any town, let alone El Campo in the Dominican Republic, is El Colmado. The reasoning I'm mentioning this to you guys, I think it's important to give any viewers that aren't Dominican the cultural context of the environment. So that way, if you do have any questions that may arise, you might find that they are answered by what I'm about to tell you. So, El Colmado is a place of gathering for people. It's what people would call a convenience store here or a mini mart, but it's a little different. you know. Um, they let people take out stuff on a tab. You can also get beer here. Sometimes there's people drinking outside, playing dominoes. It's a gathering place for the community and it's truly a staple. And I feel like the colmado here plays a very big part because the last known appearance of Brianna, at least to us, the general public, that is confirmed, is a video of her going to El Colmado. We don't know if it's with her aunts or with cousins. Apparently, they're teenagers, they're not adults. She went with them and they bought her some Cheetos and a juice box. Initially, we didn't have this footage, but the person that owns El Colmado is also the mayor of the community, and he offered the footage that he had. Apparently, there were other cameras, but they weren't working, so he only had one angle. And we know from here that she did leave, but this is where things get really confusing and muddled really quick.
Última vez a la pequeña Brianna Genao Rosario, de apenas 3 años de edad, minutos antes de su desaparición en la comunidad de Barrero, municipio Invet, provincia Puerto Plata.
Aside from the appearance, of her going to El Colmado, several people saw her playing that day. I mean, from everything that I've heard, the house that she was at in the community, they were the house that everyone went to for like Christmas dinners, not just their family, but anyone in the town, even the mayor himself, got invited a bunch of times. They also held celebrations for Three Kings, which is where kids get gifts. So it's kind of like a second Christmas, in a sense. They also held that. So it looks like a lot of community members, went back and forth from the house, at least on a regular basis. That day, I'm not too sure. What we do know is that most of her family members, or most of the people that were there, were family members. And several people saw her, before she disappeared. And apparently, after she came back from El Colmado, many state that she was playing. Many state that she was playing on the stairs. And days before that, she was playing with other kids because her other little cousins, I believe, were there, but their mom had come to take them back up to where they were from. So she was kind of the only little girl at this point left around her age. So it sounds like she was just entertaining herself, playing around, exploring like any kid would to the best of her abilities. Because, of course, this is a 3-year old. There isn't exactly much that they can do aside from cause havoc. I mean, that's just how kids are. But where I mentioned earlier that it gets tricky and very confusing is that one of her uncles, and I believe this is Rafael, he gets told by another family member, like a cousin of his or a second cousin, to go and pick up the little girl and bring her back to the house. I don't understand what that means because where was she exactly? There's a YouTuber that did like the whole walk from the house to El Colmado. It's like maybe a 3-4 minute walk. So that's just one of the things that I'm not understanding. Where was she that he had to go pick her up in his motorcycle and bring her back home? And then the second thing is he says he brings her back home to her grandmother, but the grandmother was still in the shower, but she was almost done. So he decided to leave her on the second floor because he thought that the grandmother was going to come out, and he himself goes to leave so he can also take a shower. How many showers are in this home is one of my first questions, because honestly, it seems like that day everyone was just showering at the same time. And then it just gets more complicated from there because we have the grandmother saying that she was playing, and then not even 10 to 15 minutes later, she disappeared. Another person says that she was in the hammock, and that's when 10 to 15 minutes later, they noticed that she disappeared. But everyone at least seems to agree that this was around 5:30 in the afternoon when they noticed that she was missing, that she was gone. However, she could have been gone way before that because from my understanding, people were distracted that day. They were preparing for the feast of the night. There was people peeling potatoes. Clearly the grandmother was off showering. Other people were playing dominoes, there was beer, there was drinking. It wasn't like, you know, how do I say this? It wasn't like people were very concentrated on the little girl and her whereabouts. Honestly, I personally wouldn't take my eyes off a 3-year-old child. I do understand, however, why they might have, just because they thought, we're all family here. What's gonna happen to her? It's a quiet town. I get it. And it's like the last house too on that road. So really there is only one way in and out, at least road wise, to the house. But apparently 10 to 15 minutes, the uncle says too, the one that dropped her off at the house, that's when they noticed she disappeared and everybody went searching. I had to pull out my notes because I really, want to give you the best information possible. But after they find out that the little girl, is missing, they allegedly all start looking for her. Everyone's searching and searching and searching, but no one bothers to tell Brianna's dad until about 8 to 8:30 at night that she's missing. Her dad does live in the Dominican Republic, from what I gathered, but no one told him until hours later that his child was missing. And based off his interview, he says, when they tell him that, he goes crazy. He leaves the house without a shirt, without shoes. He's just thinking of how to get there because he does live a little bit away. From what I've gathered, he lives maybe about 40 or 30 to 40 minutes from there, but he makes his way over and he says he starts searching like with his flashlight in the dark for her. And we hear from several people that the grandmothers and some of the family members just went to sleep that night, like they stopped searching. And they also didn't call authorities until 9 p.m. when this little girl is missing and they can't locate her. There's just a lot of questions here that need to be asked. We know for a fact that there were 7 adults in the house at that moment, and none of them saw her disappear. A 10-year-old child, I'm sorry, a 3-year-old child in 10 minutes. No one saw her disappear. Child can't get that far without tripping, or if she trips without crying or alerting someone. But they looked all over and they couldn't find her. So, how far can a 3-year-old child on her own go? It makes no sense. And it's like no one thought about that because they just kept searching and didn't call the authorities until way later. And I feel like those first few hours are the most critical. And I'm not trying to victim blame like the family or anything like that. But it's just weird that like no one used the logic of like how far was a little girl going to get away. A lot of people have theories initially that, hey, maybe she went into the river and drowned. But the river from the house is at least 8 minutes, honestly. And like, how is she gonna get there? She would have to go past the convenience store. Someone would have to see her in a few other houses where they might also see her, but no one saw anything. The mayor, the person that owns the convenience store, says he didn't see her that day. But there's a lot of weird things, guys. For example, those Cheetos that she bought, they found them scattered on like a side of a road. And it's just the way that they fell. Um, it just kind of doesn't make sense that she would just dump all her Cheetos there. And it wasn't even on the way to the house, it was like another road. I just, I don't get it. Like, there's no way she would have made it to the river on her own, at least. And the father ended up bringing his brother to search. And the brother did find what he believed were the little girl's shoes or Crocs by the river. But that one is still iffy of like, was it her shoes or was it not? Because someone else also claimed that they found like her clothes inside an old home. But the father believes those aren't her clothes. So there's just a lot of weird things. Like, was someone putting those there to throw the police off? Like, what is happening here? While I was filming, there has been some breaking news on this case, and I'm telling it to you very hesitantly because there have been a lot of clickbait videos on this case. There have been people posting videos on YouTube saying, "She was found, this happened to her, this is where she was found," and they were all fake. They were just clickbait titles. So I'm not sure if this is actually confirmed or if it's, like a clickbait title and people are running with it and making it official. But allegedly, people are saying that one of her uncles, Rafael, has confessed to killing her and abusing her and burying her, but he doesn't remember where he buried her body. I get chills saying this because this particular uncle, I do think like everyone got a very bad impression of him and everyone sort of kind of felt that guilt coming from him. But I think, people didn't want to say like, yeah, it was definitely him because, until there's a confession or there's evidence, you just never know. But that still leaves me with a lot of questions because I think this wasn't just the uncle personally. Like, I don't want to make grand old accusations, but everyone's agreeing that they only lost sight of her for 10 to 15 minutes max. You're telling me he had enough time to grab her, abuse her, and do what he did to her and kill her and bury her all in that time and no one noticed? Because they all agreed that they saw her, and it seems like they were all vouching for each other that no, it couldn't have been anyone in the family because they were all there. But he had time to do all of this. So it's either people are lying about their story or he like initially like kidnapped the little girl, hid her away somewhere, and then hours later did what he did. I don't get it. I really don't get it. And if it was the 10 to 15 minutes, did she ever even arrive to the home? Because like I know people are saying that they saw her, but it's just the timeline doesn't make sense. Like it honestly would make more sense if he never ended up bringing her home and he did what he did to her on the way after picking her up somewhere else. And like with the Cheetos and stuff like that, how did her Cheetos get there? Like how were they just like spilled there? I just I don't understand. And I can't verify to you that this is confirmed information, but I do know one thing that does seem to be confirmed is that last night they started shoveling in a place and a forensic ambulance did come and take something away. There were people saying that it was her body, but no one from that team officially confirmed anything. So we didn't know if it was maybe clothes or, other items. But if this is true, I don't know. He's saying he doesn't remember where her body is. So what did they take away? How do you not remember where the body of a 3-year-old girl you abused is? Like you just don't forget that. This wasn't even more than a week ago. Like it just makes no fucking sense to me. And I'm sorry to be swearing, but someone else in the family has to know what happened. And there's also this culture too of covering up for men and, not bringing them to justice. I feel so weird saying that, but I feel like people in the families cover up other family members' crimes to not tarnish their family reputation or oh, they're from the family, like how can we like tell the truth, bring them to justice, say what they did. I feel like there's just some sort of cover up going on here. And then like another far-fetched theory, and I'm going to say it but I don't even know anymore honestly, is that, because this case has been getting so much attention and so much pressure, there is a small possibility that the police are using him as a scapegoat in order to pin it on someone, blame someone to get this case resolved with. But he doesn't remember where her body is. Like, it just makes this really, really hard to believe. And it's not that I don't believe, though, that he killed her. It's not that. I just don't believe that he was the only one. I just feel like there's something much more sinister going on in that family because there's just no way that she disappears and all of this is done to her in 10 minutes and no one notices. Like, if it really was that way, God forgive me, but that is some of the most negligent behavior I have ever heard about concerning a 3-year-old child who's a toddler, who was basically a baby like yesterday, who can't defend themselves. And her own grandmother said that if someone unknown picked her up, she would instantly start crying. So it was clear it was someone that knew her and that she knew that like did whatever they did to her because she didn't cry and no one heard. It's just truly disgusting. This is a 3-year-old little girl, and if it's true that he did all of this, I honestly hope he burns to the darkest pits of hell. But I also think it's time that the Dominican's penal code and legislations change because in the Dominican, no matter what crime you commit, 30 years max is what you can get. And I'm honestly starting to think that this is ridiculous because people like that deserve more than 30 years. If anything, I think they deserve their whole life in prison until they die, especially for people too who have killed multiple people. Only getting 30 years is freaking insane to me. I'm sorry. I just I don't get it. I don't get why it's only 30 years. That's like almost nothing for some of the crimes that be going on over there, and especially one concerning a child. But I guess, I can't speak too much because the US isn't exactly known either for giving harsh punishments to those who molest, abuse, or do things to children. But I just don't get why we aren't protecting our children. I don't get it. Don't leave your kids with anyone. Honestly, don't even trust family because 9 times out of 10, it ends up being a family member that commits it. And it seems this case is heading that way. I truly hope her poor mother. I heard that she's devastated. I heard that she's being medicated, that she suffers from her heart, is what she said. And like she needs to be medicated so she can take on the toll that this is. The issues that she is going to have forever, not being able to know if she can even trust her whole family after this, especially her own mother. I feel sorry for her because I'm telling you, both grandmothers, both on the paternal and the maternal side were there. The dad, too, he's gonna have trust issues even with his own mother. This entire case is destroying a family. And whatever happened, I hope the truth comes to light because that little girl deserves it, and other little kids that have gone missing and other cases. They all deserve the attention. They all deserve justice. But one thing that seems to happen in my country a lot is that if you are poor, there is no justice for you except for celestial justice, and you don't get to see it on earth. And that needs to change. And I hope this case is a trigger for that. But I will keep you guys posted on any more official information. I truly hope you have a good night. I'm sorry, I'm just very riled up right now because it's disgusting. I keep saying it, it's disgusting, but take care of your kids. Be wary of who they are around because people with bad intentions, they will find any moment, any opportunity to do something to these poor defenseless little angels. And if it's true that Brianna is no longer with us, I truly hope she's in heaven. I know she is, because if there's a heaven, she has to be there. She's a little angel. But this never should have happened. This never should have happened. No child's life should be cut short in such a gruesome and horrific way. Until next time, take care of yourselves. I'll bring you more updates, official ones, hopefully, as this goes on. Thank you.